Well, howdy everybody. Welcome to the shop. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Well, as you can see, we've got the gearbox here. South Bend 9/8 gearbox. We're ready to put the lead screw in it and go put it out on the lathe. And get everything hooked up on the gear train and turn this puppy up and see what we get. I did playing around with it last night. I did have it all together and all mounted up. Filmed it. Then again, my camera was off and I didn't realize it, so I took it all apart this morning and I'm doing it again. But one thing I did notice last night that is a little disconcerting to me, but hopefully I'll get it figured out. When my tumblers are in two different positions, the gearbox here locks up and the belt on the motor just starts slipping. And I've been playing with it this morning before I took the lead screw off. That gave me some leverage to play around with it. I can spin it backwards in every position, the tumblers, or whatever the arrangement is. So, but what I've discovered is that there is in the rotation of the shafts, there is a hard spot. It gets really stiff. And when you're in certain arrangements of the tumblers, it's just too stiff for the motor to do it. If you think of this like a car transmission, which is basically what this is, it's a transmission. You try to start a car in fourth gear and you're going to stall the engine because your engine requires too much torque, and that's what happens when I have these tumblers in those arrangements. It'll go a little bit and then it hits that stiff spot in the rotation and it just starts slipping the belt. So I don't exactly know what it is. I can do it backwards. When I'm going from the lead screw back, I can turn it, but I can feel that stiffness in the shaft. I have a feeling it's down here in the gear tree shaft, on the central shaft, that there's something in there that in the rotation it's binding somewhere. Hopefully that'll break in and wear in. I'm going to put it together anyway. I'm not going to take it back apart and try to figure it out. So we're just going to go with it and hopefully it wears in place. So let's put this lead screw in. This is real simple. It just comes in the end of the gearbox here. You got to get it just lined up just right because it's a nice tight machine fit. You have this gear here that engages the very last gear on the gear tree, and it is keyed also to the lead screw. Once you got it, well, come on now. Never fails. The first time I do this, everything goes nicely, and then the second time I do it, I'm just fighting it. Always my luck. It's something like that. Alright, get in there now. There we go. I think. Nope, crooked. Alright, there we go. Let's try that. There it is. You have two nuts on here. No washer. That's a snugging nut. That's your tightening nut. And a jam nut to hold that in place. Now I admit I don't like doing what I'm going to do, but I don't have a narrow enough combination wrench to get on that jam nut, and this is the only wrench I have that'll fit it. I don't really like putting toothed wrenches on nuts, but I just don't. Nope. Figures you'd slip on me. Tighten that jam nut a little bit, and there's that. We're good. She's ready to go out onto the, there's that tight spot right there. I can roll past it, but it definitely gets tight a little bit. But again, I'm going backwards through the transmission right now, where I'm getting the most torque out here. When you're coming this way, it requires a lot more torque to drive it through. Let me show you how this works, if I can explain it. I hope I have this to where you can see all the gears. If you remember down here on the gear tree in the central gear shaft, these 4 gears, or 5 gears over here, are free spinning on the shaft. To show that, I will disengage the left-hand tumbler, and as I turn the drive, this is where our power is coming into the gear shaft, into the gearbox I mean. All 5 of those gears down there are free spinning. and nothing is spinning over here on the gear tree. Remember, all these gears, this gear is pinned to the central shaft, and all these gears in the gear tree are keyed. So now when I re-engage the left-hand tumbler, we are engaging one of these 5 gears with the big gear up here. That in turn engages this gear. This gear is keyed to the tumbler shaft, which turns it, which drives this gear, which is also keyed to the tumbler shaft, drives this gear, and drives this portion of the gear tree. And then the last gear here drives the lead screw. So you can see now everything's turning. And there's that tight spot. That's how this works. Basically, the power comes in, goes through the left-hand gear to the right-hand gear, through the gear tree to the lead screw. So that's it. Let's go put it up on the lathe. Alright, I'll see you out in the shop. Alright guys, here we are at the lathe, and let's get this gearbox mounted up. You got to remember, you got a keyway cut in this lead screw shaft that engages the worm drive inside the saddle, or the apron technically. Get that in that hole there, and turn that until that slot engages the key. There we are. And then that just slides right on through there, and you want to make sure that the back side of your lead screw goes into the support block back there on the back side of the lathe that's back there. You've seen that. Get these holes lined up. This has 3 screws that hold it in place. Come on now. Oh, doggone it. I didn't mean to do that. So hold that up while I pick up my screwdriver. Sometimes my big old fat butterfingers just don't always grip stuff. Alright, there we got that one started. There's only 3 screws that hold this gearbox in place, and they go down through the top of the bed, right in front of the headstock. I recommend you get all 3 of them started before you tighten any of them up. I was talking to my wife a little while ago, and I told her I wanted this plate for Christmas, and she said, okay, go ahead and get it off eBay, but you don't get it until Christmas Day. So I guess I'll just have to keep referring to the old one until Christmas gets here, and that's only a month away. It's just before, it's the weekend before Thanksgiving here in the Ozarks. So alright, there's that. I'm going to move the camera around to the other side so you can see how the gear train all goes together. Alright, here we are at the end of the lathe, and I had to hook up some lighting, so you're going to see a lot of shadows from my hands and stuff. I apologize for that, but my fluorescent light fixture on the ceiling is burned out, and it's just one of those cheap $10 shop lights from the big box stores, and it's cheaper to replace it than to put in a new ballast, so I need to do that. That's on the list of things to do. Anyway, what goes on next here is the banjo, and it fits on like so. It just goes on this big boss. Got 1 screw to tighten it up and loosen it, but you loosen it because of the changing of the stud gears, and I'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to leave that loose for a second. You remember the reversing gear here? forward, reverse. There's a gear that goes on here, and this is called your stud gear. And if you look on your threading plate, it lists 2 different stud gears. Well, for one of the thread sizes, which is the really coarse size, 4 up to 6.5 threads per inch, you want the 40-tooth stud gear up here, which is right here. For all the rest of them, you want the 20-tooth stud gear. So since that's the one I'm probably going to be using more often, I don't think I'm going to be cutting big old 4 teeth per inch gears, threads. I'm going to put the 20-tooth stud gear up here and leave it. There we go. Now the next one will be an 80-tooth idler gear, and this only goes on one way. You notice it's got a big boss here in the casting and a bearing to the inside. This bearing goes to there so that your teeth engage. If you flip that boss over, it misses. So that's pretty much just a one-way ticket there. Pretty obvious one to figure out. Put that on there with a washer and a nut. And again, when you're changing your stud gear to that bigger 40-tooth gear, you would be rotating your banjo and adjusting this 80-tooth idler in and out, because this actually engages 2 gears at once. And the next gear we're going to put on actually goes onto the gearbox. And this is a 56-tooth gear. It's keyed to the shaft. And believe it or not, I had a hard time finding this information last night. It's not in that rebuild manual that I bought. And it just took me a while to find it. What I finally ended up doing last night on the internet was going to Keith Rucker's website, vintagemachinery.org. That's also the name of his YouTube channel. But on his website, he has uploaded or scanned in a whole lot of old machinery manuals, machinery catalogs, and not just metalworking, but woodworking, and boy, anything you want to find on there, you pretty much can. And I found an old South Bend catalog that showed this arrangement on the drivetrain. This is called the drivetrain. So the next gear, here's the 40-tooth gear. It just sits right on the outside there, keys in also, but it's not used. This is just a storage spot for it. Where's that key? There it is, down there. That's just a storage. That's where so you don't lose it. It just sits there. It does absolutely nothing until you want to swap it. Then you change the stud gears and you put the 20-tooth down here for storage so you don't lose it. It goes on very simply. Now you rotate and slide that guy to engage the 80-tooth to the 56, and then slide it up to engage the 20. And then your banjo has one screw out here, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll move the camera and show you, but I'm going to go ahead and tighten it up while I'm here. The opening of this banjo is just a split collar, and this one screw just tightens that collar and pulls it together like a clamp, and that's all it's acting as, just like a clamp. And guys, that's it. This baby is ready to run. Got that in neutral. See, nothing's moving. When I engage it in forward, it's moving. Don't know how well you can see it from there, but I'll move the camera over here so you can. Turn this down. And you can see the lead screw there spinning. And there you can see the saddle moving forward as if I were threading. I just engaged the half nut. And that's what you would use for threading. Disengage it. boys, she's back together. And girls, in case there's any girls watching, this is your safety cover for the gear train. No, I didn't show that. Move the camera back over here. The safety cover for the gear train has 2 charts on the outside here. I know you can't read them. Even if I zoomed in on them, you're not going to read them because they're so old and dirty. This is the lubrication chart. I am going to go ahead and try to clean it up because it's not too dinged up. I'll just do it right on. I'm not going to take it off. I'll mask this off, hit it with some red spray paint, and it is a brass plate. So hopefully I can just sand the high embossed lettering and it'll show up good. This plate is an Army Corps of Engineers plate because this lathe was bought by the Army in 1945. However, the serial number listed on this plate does not match the serial number that's stamped on the bedways, which is the serial number you go by. So having been in the military myself once, I know how they steal parts from one machine to put on another, and I'm sure that's what happened over time. This door was taken off another machine that was all beat up and being scrapped and put on this one because this door was probably damaged. Anyway, that's it. She's basically all done. I just got a couple of little minor things to do to it, and then I'm going to tune her up and make sure she runs good and true and straight, and we'll start making some parts. I appreciate you stopping by. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Hey, even if you don't like my channel, subscribe anyway. Makes me happy. If you liked the video, click like. If you didn't, click don't like. That part don't matter to me none, but it's been a fun project. I'm glad she's almost done. I can definitely see light at the end of the tunnel on it. And we'll be making things here real soon. So thanks for stopping by again. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.